Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we turn confusing corporate reports into something you can actually understand. Today we are diving into a report from T Connectivity. It involves senior notes, which may sound like a fancy retirement plan, but it's actually about debt. Before we start, if you appreciate getting straight insights from corporate documents, make sure you're subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below. This is a Form 8K filing which companies use to announce significant events. This one's dated May 9, 2025 and involves debt, specifically senior notes. The first big piece is the termination of a credit agreement. Back in March, T Connectivity entered into a 364-day credit agreement, basically a line of credit for $1.5 billion. This credit line was backing up their commercial paper program, which they used to help finance their purchase of the Richards manufacturing business. That acquisition happened in April. Now, because they've successfully issued some new notes, which are like IOUs, they've decided to end this credit agreement effective May 16, 2025. As of May 9, 2025, there were no outstanding debts under this credit line, so they didn't actually use it. They're also planning to reduce the size of their commercial paper program from $2.75 billion to $1.25 billion. This means they are relying less on short-term debt. Now, let's get into these new notes. On May 9, 2025, TEEC SA, which is a subsidiary or part of TA Connectivity, issued two sets of notes. The first is for $450 million, with an interest rate of 4.5%, and they're due in 2031. The other is also for $450 million 21. The other 5% interest rate due in 2030 case TS, the annual report is 5% and they're due in 2031. The other is also for $450 million, but with a 5% interest rate due in 2030. Let me tab you one back. These note holders get paid before some other lenders. These notes were offered under a registration statement, kind of like a permission slip from the SEC. After deducting the underwriter's discount, which is the fee the banks get for selling the notes, they got about $887 in 5 million Europe, will be used for general business purposes, including paying back debt related to the Richards manufacturing acquisition. These notes are governed by something called an indenture, which is basically the rule book for the debt. It's dated January 31, 2025 and involves TEGSA as the issuer, T Connectivity as the parent company guaranteeing the debt, another subsidiary called Swiss T as an additional guarantor, and Deutsche Bank Trust Company Americas as the trustee, which is like the referee, making sure everyone follows the rules. The indenture is supplemented by two additional documents, one for the 2031 notes and one for the 2031 notes and one for the 2031 notes, and one for the 2031 notes and one for the 2031 notes. The trustee, Deutsche Bank, will get paid for their services. T Connectivity and Swiss TE are guaranteeing these notes, meaning if TEGSA can't pay, they will step in. These notes are unsecured, meaning they aren't backed by any specific assets, but they rank equally with all of TEGSA's other senior debt, and above any debt that is considered subordinated, which is lower in the pecking order. The notes were sold through an underwriting agreement with Barclays, BNP Paribas, Bank of America, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Scotia Capital acting as the underwriters, basically the salespeople. On April 29, 2025, T Connectivity put out a press release announcing the pricing of these notes. A copy of that press release is included as an exhibit, which is like an attachment to this report. Also included as exhibits are the actual legal documents like the indenture and the underwriting agreement, as well as legal opinions about the validity of the notes and guarantees. These legal opinions by law firms Weil, Gotshal and Manges, Allen and Overy, Bear and Cara, and Arthur Cox are also included in the registration statement. Now let's take a step back and look at what this all means. T Connectivity is basically shuffling its debt around. It's getting rid of a credit line it wasn't using and replacing it with longer-term debt in the form of these senior notes. It's not something that's out of line with most companies that acquire another company. They need cash fast and then they issue debt to pay it off. The fact that they were able to issue these notes at pretty reasonable interest rates suggests that investors have confidence in the company's ability to repay the debt. This is good for T Connectivity because it gives them more financial flexibility in the long run. As however, it's also important to keep an eye on the company's ability to repay the debt. This is good for T Connectivity because it gives them more financial flexibility in the long run. However, it's also important to keep an eye on the company's overall debt levels. Taking on too much debt can make a company will be fine. since they're well positioned in their sector. Their revenue keeps going up and hopefully it will all work out for them in the end. Alright, that's our breakdown of T Connectivity's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.